But that Catherine is nuts. What LaToya say? Let's say it together. It's all Catherine's fault. He told me that he knew he had to tell Barry what had happened and that the Jacksons were actually leaving Motown and the news couldn't wait until he got home. He pulled over to a paid telephone and called his father-in-law. Jermaine, I can't believe how pressed you are to tell that. The brothers, they signed with CBS, Barry. He blurted out as soon as Barry picked up. I can't believe it, but they did. They left Motown. Jermaine recalled that there was silence on the other end of the connection. Finally, in a soft and calm voice, Barry spoke. Are you absolutely sure, Jermaine? They already signed the contracts. Jermaine answered, his tone frantic. I saw them with my own eyes. Well, what about you? Did you sign? Barry asked. The brothers are leaving because there are problems in Motown, Jermaine said. But I want to stay, Barry. I want to help work out the problems. Jermaine later recalled, I told him I didn't sign and that I wasn't going to. He told me to come by his house, which I did. We talked it out. That night, he became like a second father to me, a sensible father. You're on your way to the top, he told me. You could be running Motown one day. So you remember how Berry Gordy and Smokey Robinson became best friends? The scenarios are very similar. With Smokey Robinson, when he started out with the Miracles, Berry Gordy wasn't booking them in what they felt was appropriate venues, because one of the venues that Berry booked them in almost got him stabbed up. Now on the car ride home, all the boys was grunting and groaning about Berry Gordy and his efforts to be a proper manager to them. Under pressure from the guys, Smokey Robinson had started co-signing. After Smokey Robinson had dropped the Miracles off, he went back to Berry Gordy's house and he apologized to him and said, Berry, I believe in you. I apologize for letting the pressures get to me. So basically, this is the same scenario that happened with the Jacksons. Where there's a big difference is that one, Smokey Robinson wasn't fucking Berry Gordy's daughter and cheating on her. In addition, Smokey Robinson never left Motown. Never. Nor Berry's side. Never. Jermaine Jackson, after a while, he said, I'm not making no money over here. The promises you made to me, Berry Gordy, they ain't working out. I've been cheating on your daughter for a while, so I guess I need to move on. If Jermaine would have stayed with Motown, I'm sure Berry Gordy would have put him in the same capacity as Smokey Robinson. Because remember, when Smokey Robinson was out there smoking crack and not bringing in a hit, Berry Gordy still looked out for him, very much so. The brothers are leaving because there are problems at Motown, Jermaine said, but I want to stay, Berry. I want to help work out the problems. Jermaine later recalled, I told him I didn't sign and that I wasn't going to. He told me to come by his house, which I did. We talked it out. That night, he became like a second father to me, a sensible father. You're on your way to the top, he told me. You could be running Motown one day. I mean, I believe that. Because, like I said, it's the same scenario as Smokey Robinson. Despite the fact that there was such turmoil in the family, the group still had work to do on the road. When Jermaine came back to the house a few days later to rehearse for the show, he and Catherine had a loud discussion about his decision not to sign the CBS contract. Catherine was angry with him, and she let him know it. Jermaine reminded her that Gordy had been the one who put steaks on our table and teeth in our mouths. Catherine couldn't believe her ears. We were already eating steaks in Gary. Bullshit the baker. That's the lie. From what I remember in all the books I read, y'all was around there eating the potatoes. Happy Joe was working in the potatoes fields. So that's bullshit, the baker. She talk about the steaks. No, maybe y'all might have been eating that Salisbury steak. And as for the teeth he put in Jackie's and Tito's mouths, he recouped that money hundreds of times over. Now, I agree with that. You can be sure of that. However, it doesn't seem likely that the Jacksons were eating steaks in Gary. Yeah, because Catherine is crazy. As soon as y'all get a hold of that, y'all be just fine. I don't know what Catherine's sign is, but Catherine is nuts. What LaToya say? Let's say it together. It's all Catherine's fault. The next stop for the group was the Westbury Music Fair on New York's Long Island. After the Jackson 5's first performance at the Westbury Music Fair, the telephone rang in the dressing room. It was Barry calling for Jermaine. As his family watched Jermaine's face for a hint as to what the conversation was about, Jermaine clutched the telephone tightly. He didn't say much other than goodbye. He exhaled deeply and he hung up. Okay, I guess I gotta go, Jermaine announced. Now? We go on in 30 minutes. How we're gonna work around you, Jackie gasped. I can't believe you're doing this to us, Tito added. Everybody was talking at once, Joseph's voice being loudest of them all. Are you crazy? He stormed. We're your family, not the Gordys. What's wrong with you, Jermaine? You ain't going nowhere, boy. Barry had demanded that 20-year-old Jermaine make the most important decision in his life and make it right then, right there. Motown or CBS, the Jacksons or the Gordys, his birth family or his family by marriage. Okay. First of all, Berry Gordy was out of pocket for that. What you don't do is put a person in a situation like that. Shut up, Lou. That is absolutely, positively wrong. It's stressful, and it will cause someone to make the wrong, hasty choice. Berry Gordy is absolutely wrong, and Joseph is absolutely wrong. If I was Joseph, I would say, do what you need to do, son. Do what you feel is best for you. And I wouldn't treat him no different. Berry Gordy, being the petty motherfucker he is, you are a dirty berry bug bite. You are the most disgustingest motherfucker in the world to make a son choose between you and his blood father, even though Joseph out of pocket all the time. But in this case, Berry Gordy is out of pocket. You are out of line, sir. Whether Jermaine acted on impulse or understood the ramifications of what he was about to do, he rushed out of the dressing room quarters with tears in his eyes. I'm out of here, he said. He took a car to his hotel room, where he packed his suitcase in about 5 minutes. What's going on? What's going on? Hazel wanted to know. Jermaine could not speak. We were surprised, really in shock, absolutely stunned, Marlon later remembered. It was like a dream, Jermaine getting that call and then walking out on us like that. We were about an hour from showtime. The place was already packed. We had a show to do. We couldn't dwell on any of it. Michael was crying, and I said, not now, Mike. We have fans out there. We have to buck up. Wiping his eyes, he said, I can do it, Marlon. But later, we got to deal with this. We got to get Jermaine back. That night, the Jackson 5 exploded onto the stage of the Westbury Music Fair with such elation. No one in the audience would ever have guessed the backstage drama that had just unfolded. Michael's first responsibility was to his audience. He was just 16, but he knew what he had to do. During an ironic tribute to the Motown sound, Michael prowled the stage like a fierce, balletic wolf. I Want You Back, ABC, The Love You Save, Never Can Say Goodbye. All the Motown hits and more were performed with graceful and often demanding choreography, whatever it took to please his fans. That's what Michael did, transforming, as always, personal frustrations into sheer energy. By the time the youngsters were finished, members of the audience were bouncing out of their seats. There were 3 encores, but afterwards, backstage, there was no music, no partying, no laughing, as usual after a stellar performance. Everyone returned to his own dark mood. Why does the show have to end? Michael asked his brother Jackie. He seemed disheartened. Though he tried and tried to hide his feelings, they always seemed to show. I've read about Jermaine leaving the Jackson 5 several times, but this has never hit me as hard as any other time I've read about it or watched it unfold on television. Reading this part is heart-wrenching to me because I have my own situations that are very similar to this. This shit hits hard. You hear me? Super hard. Suddenly, Joseph stood up. In a matter of seconds, he went from sadness to fury. It's my blood that flows through Jermaine's veins, Joseph bellowed. Not Berry Gordy's. Not Berry Gordy's. Then he stormed out of the dressing room and slammed the door behind him. It seemed at first that leaving Motown would be easier than Joseph thought it would be. Berry Gordy had done nothing to prevent their departure. He was preoccupied with Motown's film business anyway, and didn't seem too dismayed by the fact that the Jackson 5 was leaving the company. As long as he had Jermaine in his corner and had won the particular battle, Berry seemed satisfied. Because he did not want to deal with Joseph anyway, Ewart Abner was the one handling most matters concerning the Jackson 5 during the final days of Motown. But few acts have ever left Motown without at least a little melodrama. Unbeknownst to Joseph, Berry Gordy had one more surprise in store for him.
You say that you love